Hello. Welcome back to, I wanted to say the Fast Forward Amy show, but I've changed the name more than a year ago. This is the Fail to Win podcast. I have been brainstorming for a couple of hours and I've finally decided to create a new series for you. Why is that? Well, it's October 1st as I'm launching this episode, and this summer I basically accidentally created a 6-figure secret series, and I got so many comments from people on it that they loved it and that they were listening to all of them. I thought, okay, you know what? I think people like this series concept, so I'm creating another series. I'm just still in doubt of the name a little bit. I think it's going to be like the Millionaire Content Secrets, Self-Made Millionaire Content Secrets. I have to make the final decision, but I'll do that after the episode. Usually, if I'm talking, I get inspired. So what are we going to do? There's 5 Tuesdays in this month of October, and that means I am going to gift you 5 episodes that are going to teach you the content secrets only millionaires know, or like the online millionaires know. Online millionaire content secrets. Something like that, guys. We'll get there. And this first episode, well, obviously, we're going to kick it off with some goal setting, because you're probably not currently hitting your targets in terms of cash flow, following, maybe you're not being consistent, and you are here for a reason. I'm assuming you're here because you want to grow your socials, you want to grow your bank account, and luckily we still have 25% of the year left to make all of it happen. So let's dive in. We're going to look at how you can grow your socials and your cash flow in Q4 and which top 3 mistakes you need to stop making so we can make sure all of that happens, okay? Let's go. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, a show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. As I'm recording this, by the way, I've just gotten back from, the UK. I just went on a trip there. It was like semi-workation, and then it was a bit of a vacation. The weather was total shit. I kept telling my boyfriend before we left, like, I think I need an actual vacation, like sunshine, an all-in hotel. And then we ended up in the rain and the mud in the UK because we had this weekend that we're gonna go to with friends and family, Goodwood Revival, which was really fun. But I didn't like the rain and all of it. Actually, as you're listening to this episode, I'm recording this 2 weeks before it airs, so I'm pretending it's October 1st as this launches, but you gotta know it's actually September 16th. I have 2 really, really busy weeks. And when I have really busy weeks, it's actually because I'm in between travel. I have a rally this weekend, classic car rally with my dad, and then I'm going to LA, and then I'm going to Ibiza. So for me, making sure that in between the busy, I don't lose sight of my goals is incredibly important, because obviously, if I don't hit my cash flow targets, if I don't create content, well, my business wouldn't survive me not being there. It's because I tend to batch all of it and I make sure I hit my targets whether I'm there or not, that the business does well, and that I can afford to have people basically on my payroll and all of that. And so what I want to do is I want to look at, like, together at the top 3 mistakes that you might be making, which is causing you to not hit your targets or to not grow your bank account or general social accounts. I was inspired to record this episode because of the fact that it's Q4. I think this year just flew by. Incredible. 75% of the year has gone. We only have 25% of the year left. But as I keep telling my clients in my online business club, let's just make it the best quarter of the year yet. There's so much potential in these upcoming months. We just have to make sure that we take into account that your energy might go a little bit lower. It might be getting a little bit darker. So we really have to make sure that we have our goals in hand. I believe that cash flow is the number 1 most important metric in your business. A lot of businesses go bankrupt, not necessarily because they're not selling or stuff, but simply because they are not managing their cash flow well. I created an episode about that last week. You can listen to that. It's all about your financials and your cash flow. That was still a part, 2 weeks ago now. It was a financial episode. It was the last part of a 6-figure series. So if you are looking to hit your first 100K year or 6 figures, definitely make sure you go and check out that series. It's a 6-part series. So cash flow is really important, and I believe in the online business world where my focus lies with many of my clients is that content is really a really big driver of said cash flow. And there's a couple of reasons why a lot of people kind of know this, yet they're still not hitting their targets. And as I love goal setting, I thought this was the perfect opportunity. Like the first of a month on a Tuesday, the beginning of a quarter, this was just amazing that I got to record an episode on goal setting. So there's 3 mistakes I see a lot of people make. The first one is they aren't setting goals, or they are setting unrealistic goals. And I fall into the second category. I am a really unrealistic person. I always, I joke about this with my team. One of my team members once said something along the lines of, we have to be realistic about this. Sandy, actually, my team member, and we've been joking about it ever since. This was probably 2.5 years ago that she said that. And she's always saying like, oh my God, I'm still getting crucified for the fact that I used the word once. Because I always say, I don't like realistic goals. But I've kind of had to change my tune over the past couple of years, because I've realized that when you don't set realistic goals, it can just be wildly demotivating. And maybe you're like me, you're always looking to double, triple, and all of that. And you know what? Back in 2020, that was fairly easy. If you were starting out online, it was really easy to grow really quickly. But you can't just always be tripling and 10xing. So what I started doing in terms of, for example, my social following. I have this new account. It has about 5,000 followers now. And I was telling everyone, I'm going to get it to 10,000. But I actually didn't really have time to focus on the growth because I was focusing on a lot of other things in my business and just generally in my life. I like having a life. So that also means I can't just set 10 different goals for myself where I 10x everything. So I start realizing like, okay, Amy, this might not be your best, strategy of always just saying I'm going to double or triple or 10x something. And although I still like the sentiment of dreaming big and all of it, I also think we all have lives happening. So if you're not used to setting goals, or you are someone who is afraid of setting goals because what if you don't hit them, or maybe you've been setting unrealistic goals like me and you kind of want to hit a reset button, I'm going to teach you my fix, the thing that I have done. So if you look at, for example, your following, there's a couple of things you can control and there's a couple of things you can't control. Being consistent with content, you can control that. Aiming for new followers, you can more or less control that. But for example, you can't control how many people are going to unfollow you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're only going to focus on the things that we can actually consciously focus on to make that outcome happen. So I'm going to ignore unfollows, or for example, for your email list, unsubscribes, and I'm going to focus on new follows. So if you look at your insights on Instagram, for example, I wouldn't open the whole total follows. I would just look at new follows. And so the hack to set your new target for this quarter or this month could be that we look at September and we go to Instagram Insights and then we click on custom and you take the whole month of September and you look at how many new people started following you. And then you look at August, how many new people started following you. You look at July, how many new people started following you. If you've been doing more or less the same, chances are that's going to be more or less the same. And now I'm going to challenge you that for this month, you are going to aim for 10% more than it was. So for example, if you had 100 new follows in September, we're going to add 10% or 20%. If you feel like you were really not trying, you can make it 20%. I still do like to aim at the 20% mark, if I'm being completely honest. Hashtag unrealistic. So you're going to basically take the number of new follows you had, and then you're going to multiply it by 1.1. And then you're going to see your new target for this month. You can do the same for a quarter. You can also just add it all up. Be like, okay, we had 300 new follows, and then we're going to do that times 1.1, basically more or less the same, although I just prefer working month to month. So if you haven't been good at goal setting, you can do this for your sales, for amount of clients, for general cash flow, new follows, new subscribers, podcast listens. I do this for my podcast listens. So we look at, last month, we actually surpassed it more than 20%. We looked at the podcast downloads in July, and then we set a target of 20% more in August, and we actually hit that target. Then we take the target of August, or we take the result of August, and we add 20% to that. And that's going to be the target for September. The 20%, I don't know how it's going to pan out for us, but the big gist here is that we don't Hey, just a quick break because I have something for you. If you're here and you've been listening for a while, you probably noticed that somewhere along the way, I kind of started changing the angle of my episodes. I stopped talking about how to start your business and started talking more about how to scale your business, how to lead, how to make more money independent from your time. And along with that, I have been talking more and more to CEOs, not just beginners anymore, although I love coaching those. I've silently been reshaping this podcast to really be the buddy for any ambitious CEO who's, starting to lead a team, who's having to deal with mistakes, and also who's bumping into their own nervous system. And this is also exactly what I have been adding in my product suite, because 2 years ago, I decided to start one-on-one coaching again, and I opened up a high-level mastermind, including one-on-one coaching and 6 monthly retreats. And currently, I am back to enrolling new members because I only choose a couple of people a year to work with so we can scale their business to $1 million and beyond. And right now, I have some capacity opening up to enroll a few more masterminders and to go on a retreat together. So if you've been listening, you're like, well, I do multi-six figures, I like online marketing, I'd love to scale, and I'd love to have Amy as my personal business coach. I would love to see if we get to work together. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and apply so we can chat and see if this is a fit, which goes both ways, obviously. So either go to the link in the description of this episode or just go to Instagram and message me mastermind, and I'll personally message you. It's not automated, and let's chat and set up an intake call. Okay, talk soon. We don't drag along our mistakes. So if we don't hit our target, then we're not going to just get further and further from the finish line. No, we recalculate. At the end of the month, the last day of the month, I look at my stats, and then I say, okay, we're going to now set the new targets based on this month's results. Because if we didn't hit our goals, it would be really demotivating that then your goal starts being really, really far away. So the fix to unrealistic or lack of goals is to set a percentage on your goals, and you can choose, like a bigger company won't work with 10 to 20%. Bigger companies will work with far smaller percentages. But for small online entrepreneurs, this can really work. And you can obviously also choose different percentages or numbers for different KPIs in your business, which are basically the targets in your business. So that's the first fix before we dive into this month of content with the Millionaire content secrets. We're going to have to set some goals. So for me, I'm going to choose, for my smaller account that I'm growing, I'm going to choose the 20% new follows, and I'm going to do the same for my podcast. So that means I will now look at how many downloads did I get in September, and then I'm going to decide I want to add 20% to that in October. And that means I have to promote it more. And that means I have to find other people who are interested in it and all of that. Okay, so the second thing you can do if you, or the second mistake you're probably making is that you are only setting outcome-based goals if you are setting goals. So maybe you've been saying, I want 10,000 followers, or I want to make 10K a month, or something like that. And while you can work towards that, and I was already saying it, you do have a grip on that outcome. You don't have a full grip on that outcome. It's kind of like the scale. You can work out, you can go for walks, you can eat healthily, but at the end of the day, sometimes the scale is going to move and sometimes it's not going to move. And that could have to do with your hormones or water weight or a lack of sleep or things that are keeping you up at night, which are causing your cortisol to spike. You can move towards that goal. It's setting your direction, but you can't actually make sure that you will hit your outcome goal. It's kind of the same, for example, with my podcast. So with my new Dutch podcast, which is called Gewoon Doen, which is in Dutch, it's basically just do it. It's not by Nike, but kind of sounds like it. In Dutch, Gewoon Doen. We have an outcome-based goal, which is 20% more listens than the month before. But we also have a process-based goal, and that is that we publish a daily podcast episode. And this is not my goal. This is one of my team members who has this as her focus point. So when I'm, for example, not going live every day, she will make sure that when I'm on vacation, she takes clips out of sessions and things I've been doing so that there are podcast episodes planned in every day. They can be short, they could even be bad, but the goal is that there is a podcast up every single day. And that makes it really, really clear. And it also makes it so that even if we don't hit our outcome-based goal, we still hit a different goal and we know that we tried. And my mom used to say this to me when I had to take an exam and I was always really stressed about, am I going to do a good job or not? And my mom used to always say, the only thing you can do is your best. And I was always like, fuck that. I want to ace it. I want to get 20 points out of 20 options, And these past couple of years, being an entrepreneur, leading a team, having hundreds and thousands of clients, I realized that my mom is right. I can only do my best. And the same goes for you. When does it actually become an issue? What I see with my clients is sometimes they'll ask me for reviews of their socials, and I'll see that they are very inconsistent with their content. And they'll ask me, why am I not growing? And then I'll see that they haven't posted in a week, for example. And I'll simply tell them, and I say this in a nice way, I'm like, I'm not going to review your account because you actually haven't been posting. And sometimes people whine a little bit about that. I actually don't say it in that way, by the way. I have a conversation with them about it. But it just means there's nothing for me to review. I have over 5,000 posts on my main Instagram account. I have daily podcast episodes. So when people come to me, and I'm not saying you have to have daily episodes, by the way, far from it. But when they come to me to review something that isn't there, I'm like, well, but how can you learn what works and what doesn't work if you are not being consistent? On the Fail to Win podcast, which is what I'm recording a podcast episode for right now. Like, I've been recording podcast episodes since 2020. I've never missed a single Tuesday. And I believe consistency is one of the biggest things we need in our business and one of the biggest fuck ups. So how can you make sure that you are consistent? It's by not just setting an outcome-based goal, but also setting a process-based goal. So for Sophie, my team member who runs the podcast, her process-based goal is a daily podcast episode. So for example, for the month of September, that has 30 days, her target is 30 podcast episodes. And I can help her with that, but the target is really, really clear. And we will hit that, for example, because that's just the process. For me, it could be that I publish a reel for growth, a growth reel to attract new people 3 times a week. Now, I can make the swaggiest reels and I can try really hard. And sometimes I'll make a video and no one will like it. And it will just fall flat on its ass. You want to make money on Instagram, but you're not exactly sure what you actually need in order to make that happen. Chances are you're creating content and you're trying different things, but it seems to not really click together and you're wondering why those other people are getting in all of those sales, but you aren't. Well, in reality, even if you're only selling for 30 euros every day, that's an extra 1,000 a month if you can make it work. But so many people actually can't because they don't see the full picture and they are missing one key element. That's why I've made the Instagram income map for my clients, which is a PDF workbook that you can go through in 1 hour. You'll discover the 8 building blocks that determine whether you just attract clients on Instagram or just talk about sales, or that you can actually go from attracting clients to getting in sales every single day. And I want that for you. So you can go and grab the workbook now, available for only 27 euros for a limited time. Go to fastforwardamy.com/income map and I'll send it over to you instantly, or click the link in the description of this episode. I won't hit my target of hitting X amount of views, for example, but I will hit my target, my process-based target of creating 3 growth reels a week. So by setting process-based goals for yourself, you are going to motivate yourself much more, and you're also going to give yourself the gift of actually wrapping up at the end of your day, because you might have noticed that it feels like you're never done working. You might feel like you're always just busy, and at the end of the day, you feel like it's never enough. It's probably because you don't have a process-based goal. You don't know when you are done. So this is my second fix of how you can finish the year strong, is for your most important metrics and targets, make sure you also set some process-based targets for yourself. So even that when you are not hitting your outcome-based goals, you are still hitting the process. So for me, that could be, my goal is to be able to bench press 50 kilos. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I know the better I sleep and the better I eat and the more I practice, the sooner I'm going to hit that goal. So in the meantime, my process-based goal that I've attached to it is just strength training 4 times a week and getting a minimum of 8 hours of sleep in on average. Those are my process-based goals. And then the last, but not least of this is actually when we have that process, people usually know that they need to post every day, or they know that they need to publish an episode every week or send out a newsletter, for example, but they don't get around to it. And it's because they don't have a process or they haven't put their process into tasks. So for example, for me, when I have to record podcasts, for example, today, I'll open up my task manager today. On my tasks for today, it says, prep your podcast is one task. And then it says record podcast 255, which is this one. And then it says edit podcast 255. Then it says make a reel of podcast 255, plan in the reel for the 1st of October. And then it says write the title and outline and blah, blah, blah for episode 255. These are all separate tasks for the one thing. My preferred outcome is I have a world-class podcast listened to by thousands and millions of people. But I can't really control that. I can just try to promote it as best I can. So what I do is every week I create a bunch of pieces of content to promote my podcast. So my process-based goal is basically every Tuesday there's a podcast going live at 7 a.m. And in order to hit that goal, I need to put that target into steps. Prep the podcast, record the podcast, edit the podcast, export it, write the description, create a promotional post, and all of that. So that one really important thing that I need to create every week, I've put it into tasks in my task manager so I can't not do it. And this is where a lot of people get into trouble because people will always come to me. My clients will come to me in the online business club. We do office hours, for example. And they'll come to me like, I can't get around to making my content. I'm not disciplined enough. And first of all, I hear you. I've been the same. I used to really struggle with this. I used to do everything last minute. I've really had to grow into this over these past couple of years. It's really been a process, but I wish someone would have given me this podcast episode, for example. So I know how difficult it is, and you're not going to fix everything just in one go, but I can give you this tip. It's because usually the most important work you need to do, like checking in with your clients or recording the podcast or prepping the episode or writing the newsletter, are the things you do at the end of the day. And you should be doing them at the beginning of the day. And the reason you're not doing them at the beginning of the day is because you get these to-dos from people, reactive emails, scrolling, your parents calling you, I don't know what else, payments you need to make. And you do all of the busy stuff at the beginning of your day. And then at the end of the day, you think you did your to-do list, but you actually never wrote down the tasks for that big mountains of work you actually had to do. Recording a podcast, or just podcast, is not a task. The deliverable is a podcast episode with everything around it, the newsletter, the post, blah, blah, blah. The actual tasks are like multiple tasks you need to execute in order to have that podcast go out every week. So I was thinking, I was creating all of this, the prep, the outline for all of these episodes for the month of October. And I was like, which lead magnet am I going to promote? What do people need? What do they want? Because I wanted to create something new. And there's this one thing I do, and I cannot believe I'm giving this away. But since the, AI, the AI, I'm a boomer now. Since AI and ChatGPT, if I'm being very precise for myself, I have found the biggest hacks to help me with my content creation. With my podcast, for example, I'll record this audio file. After this, I don't edit it. I'll just add the outro. I'll export it. I'll create a transcript, and then I'll put it into ChatGPT with the prompt I have. I'll create 8 deliverables from it. It is incredible. I have created this process that I have just perfected. And it allows me to create 8 pieces of content from this episode in about 20 to 30 minutes, which is incredible. That used to take me hours, or it would have taken me hundreds of euros to have someone do this for me. And I thought, well, why not share this? Because I know you are so busy. You're listening to this episode and you are struggling with your content and you want to grow, and you are probably really struggling to be consistent, but you might just also be too slow. And my name is FastForwardAmy. So I thought, why not help you become a little bit faster with your content by teaching you how you can actually use ChatGPT, and show you how I record and edit the podcast and create 8 pieces of content from it in text, all in like under 90 minutes. So if you want that, I'm calling it my ChatGPT Content Buddy tutorial. If you just DM me Buddy on Instagram, so that's Buddy, or you go to fastforwardamy.com/content buddy, I will DM you the link to my tutorial. I still have to make it, but by the time that this episode is live, I will have made it. Can't believe I'm doing this to myself. I'm gifting it to you for free. So basically, it's going to change your life. Please have a look at it. I'm going to explain to you how you can just become so much quicker with your content, and you don't even need to hire anyone else. You just need to work with ChatGPT. So to recap this episode, you are going to finish the year strong. You're going to make sure you hit your Q4 targets first by setting actual realistic goals. We're going to work with a month-to-month percentage or quarter-to-quarter. Then instead of only setting outcome-based goals, you're going to make sure you also set process-based goals. They're way more motivating. And well, you might be making the mistake of not putting your targets into tasks. So make sure that whenever you have big shit to do, you actually create tasks that are going to help you achieve those. Remember, like what I said, record the podcast, prep the podcast, edit the podcast. All of those are steps you need to take in order to hit your results. This was the Weekly Tuesday episode. I hope you liked this. Please do let me know if you like this. Honestly, sometimes I get messages from people who are saying like, oh my God, I love your podcast so much, or I run into people and it blows my mind because sometimes I feel like no one is listening. So I actually really, really appreciate it when you let me know if you like this or if you would leave a little review. Spotify isn't super useful for reviews. Apple Podcasts is. So if you're listening on Spotify, please just hit follow. That will mean a lot to me. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave me a rating, write a little review. It would really, really make my day if you did that. So thank you and see you in the next episode. And the Content Buddy link, by the way, I added it to this description, but the fastest way is to just DM me Buddy on Instagram on FastForwardAmy and I'll send it over. Okay, bye. You want to make money on Instagram, but you're not exactly sure what you actually need in order to make that happen. Chances are you're creating content and you're trying different things, but it seems to not really click together and you're wondering why those other people are getting in all of those sales, but you aren't. Well, in reality, even if you're only selling for 30 euros every day, that's an extra 1,000 a month if you can make it work. But so many people actually can't because they don't see the full picture and they are missing one key element. That's why I've made the Instagram income map for my clients, which is a PDF workbook that you can go through in 1 hour. You'll discover the 8 building blocks that determine whether you just attract clients on Instagram or just talk about sales, or that you can actually go from attracting clients to getting in sales every single day. And I want that for you. So you can go and grab the workbook now, available for only 27 euros for a limited time. Go to fastforwardamy.com/income map and I'll send it over to you instantly, or click the link in the description of this episode.